Attila from the third coat. So I just want to show you why staining timber is one of the more difficult jobs out there, and the main reason is that if you want to do a proper job, so like for example here, you know, we've got no idea what exactly is on the surface previously, and there's all kinds of different coatings on there. I know that there's some sort of an acrylic stain on there, and there's probably some oil underneath, or some sort of oil-based stain underneath. So you can't just sort of stain over it, because stain, what we were talking about, like a semi-transparent stain or almost fully transparent. The stuff that I use is sort of semi-transparent. You can still see through it. So if you're gonna leave the previous coatings on there, they will just show through the top, the new stain, no matter what you try to do. So the only proper, and especially like, you know, we've got like peeling and all kinds of stuff going on, so but even if you don't have peeling issues, and you know, you've got a good adhesion, the previous coatings have to be removed when you're staining, because otherwise you cannot get a consistent uniform finish with the colour that you have chosen, right? Because, you know, if you put a certain stain on that is designed to look a certain colour, it will look completely different if you go over any already existing stain, right? That's just the way it is. So everything has to be brought back to bare timber, and it is a monkey job. Like, you know, there's a very labour intensive. So yesterday I started with paint stripper and removed whatever wanted to come off just with a pressure washer. So that was just like a quick preliminary stuff, and now I'm doing the more detailed removal with the scrapers and bringing in the sander. So yeah, you gotta remove you know, as much as you can of the previous coatings, otherwise your new stain will not look the way it's supposed to look, and it won't last as long as it should. Right, especially with the stuff that I use, which is spar and deck, flod spar and deck. That one, the first coat, is supposed to go straight onto the bare substrate, onto the wet substrate, right? Because that allows you to sort of soak in, allows it to soak into the surface, to penetrate as much as possible. So it's got to be brought back to bare timber. So yeah, that's just these are the reasons why staining, like, you know, timber staining is very time consuming and quite expensive as a result. So if you're going to go down that route, then you need to be prepared to pay accordingly. And also, exterior stains on exterior surfaces don't last very well. So you're going to have to keep maintaining it, keep looking after it every 2 or 3 years. Give it a maintenance coat. Keep an eye on it all the time, especially on horizontal surfaces where you've got the water and you know, more of the sun beating down on it. This one is not too bad, this area, because it's sort of relatively sheltered by trees. But there's another side to the house which I'm going to do, and that one is sunny and more exposed. So yeah, so staining is pretty expensive and to do in the first place, especially if you already got some sort of coating on it that will have to be removed. So and also it's got to be maintained consistently. So every 2 or 3 years, keep looking after it. I mean, and that's actually acrylic stains I'm talking about. So water-based, semi-transparent stains, which are the most durable on the market at the moment. But if you're doing like oil-based stains or oils or something, they would have to be redone every 6 months or so. Yeah. Alright, so hope this was helpful. Have a good day. So, bye. Again, just carrying on from this video that I started to make about restaining and why it is one of the most expensive jobs you can undertake. You know, this is just one set of windows. There's another one on the corner there, but around the corner. But this one is almost ready to be coated because I've sort of sanded everything down, scraped and sanded. So this is, you know, usually it's just a matter of trial and error what works. Sometimes you're going to be able to scrape it off manually pretty easily. Sometimes you don't have any other option but to go manual. Like for example here, with all these little inserts, because of all the angles we're dealing with and you know, right next to the glass, you don't want to be using a machine sander. For one, you can't really get in there to get this angle properly, and also you'll be ending up scratching the glass all over. So with this one, you want to use something like this, you know, just a little short scraper, and it gets right in there, and you know, it's pretty good. And being an acrylic stain, it comes off relatively easy, much easier than a good quality paint would, but still takes a bit of elbow grease. And so what else, the other thing I'm still going to have to do is, like you see those dirtier spots down there, especially on the sills and on the horizontal surfaces where it's more exposed to the weather. Especially those areas will need to be cleaned. There are certain products out there which are designed to clean, you know, bare timber in preparation for clear coating and staining, that sort of stuff. So usually they contain some sort of oxalic acid and citric acid or whatever. So that's what we're going to do soon. Yeah, so you know, just you got to be aware, if you're a tradesman, that again, that this sort of stuff, if you want to do it properly, is probably one of the most time-consuming jobs that you can undertake. And this one set of windows, especially because it's French windows, so you've got all the little inserts there as well. So for one set of windows in Australia, if you charge any less than $600 for this, you won't be making money. And probably, you know, you'd need a bit more than that even. So you got to be aware. Otherwise, you know, don't take the job, because there's plenty of work. Continuing from this with this video here about the stained windows. The windows are completely done now, finished. I've cleaned off glass as well. So that's what it comes up like. This is the product I've used. Is I'll show you. It's Flod Spar and Deck, and it's probably the most durable product out there for, in terms of like wood stains, exterior wood stains. I mean, it's pretty fiddly to put it on windows, because, you know, in theory or ideally, the wood has to be, obviously, you know, you got to go back to bare wood, that's a given, but even then you got to, you know, like most other products really, you know, you got to clean the wood first. Even though you've sanded it back to bare wood, there's probably going to be some dirty stains underneath, or oils or something that you should ideally remove as much as you can. It's not going to be 100% perfect, but yeah, just do what's reasonable. And so the first coat of this product, of the stain, needs to be applied to wet timber, right? The reason for that is that this ensures better penetration of the product, because if you just put it onto dry timber, then there's danger of that product, you know, not soaking in before it dries, because being an acrylic water-based stuff, it dries pretty quickly, and stains in general, they go on much thinner than paints. So you know, you really want to give it a longer working time and some sort of penetration, and you know, they've designed this system of, you know, asking you to wet the timber before putting the first coat on. You know, these manufacturers are the only ones I know of that have this sort of in their you know, application method or whatever. You know, there's quite a lot of water-based stains out there nowadays for exteriors, and none of them, you know, use that method as far as I know. Anyway, but this definitely helps. Probably not as vital in vertical surfaces, but it's important on horizontal surfaces where the water can pool, and you know, you get a harsher level of sun. But yeah, I try to make sure that every surface is wet before applying the first coat. As you can imagine, it's not easy to do with a big area like this, with all kinds of fiddly angles and whatever, because if you just start at the top, let's say, and work your way down and across, then chances are that by the time you get to the end, you know, the wood that you have previously wetted has already sort of dried out, so you would have to make it wet again, but then you risk damaging the coating that you've already applied. So, you know, the way I do it is I just do it by sections. So let's say I do the entire window sash there or something, and then leave the rest of the window for now, and then move on to the next window. So there's 4 sets of windows here, and the door frame, so there's still quite a bit to do, and this stuff dries pretty quickly, even especially, like, you know, in the conditions that I've been using it. It's a pretty nice autumn weather here, about 20-25 degrees, and so it dries reasonably quickly, even when you've wetted the timber. So, you know, you're never going to be sitting around waiting for things to dry, because you move on to the next window. By the time you've finished all the sashes, then, you know, the first window is going to be completely dry, and then you can wet the rest of the window or some other parts, or maybe go around the outside edge and do that one first, and then leave the inserts for now, and then go around again, do all the windows, can then come back, and once it's dry you do all the inserts, and, you know, so it's got to be done by sections, because you just don't have enough time to finish it all off before the wood dries out, right? So yeah, that's one thing. And I'm doing this door here, and and the door frame, the door surrounds, and so there's something like, obviously that one also has been stripped back to bare wood. Now I've applied a first coat on that, so I should have showed you what it looked like when it was completely bare, but anyway, you get the idea. But the main point here is that when you bring it back to bare wood, you're going to use maybe 80 grit sandpaper or something, because otherwise, you know, you won't be able to remove the previous coating. So you go with 80. That's rough enough, but not too rough. And then you will notice that 80 grit sandpaper leaves you a somewhat rough texture, especially after you put the first coat on. It raises the first coat of every sort of water-based product out there will always raise the wood fibres, and so what you need to do after the first coat, once that's dry, you're going to have to go through it and fine sand all the timber. I mean, with the windows it's not that important because you don't sort of touch it as much and it's not that obvious, so you don't have to be as thorough with the windows. I mean, you still want to do what's obvious, but with the doors you got to do it properly, and so, you know, you should probably I use 180 grit sandpaper, maybe 150 if you want it a bit easier, but just use it very lightly, and that will be enough to remove the raised fibres and any sort of rough areas that are on there, and will make it really smooth, and you won't have to sand it again after the second coat and before the third coat. So yeah, that's just a little suggestion.